By June 1941, the Germans had already knocked out Poland, Denmark, Norway, the Benelux, and France. They'd helped Italy beat Greece and Yugoslavia. Now Adolf Hitler was ready for what he wanted, Operation Barbarossa. Operation Barbarossa would be the biggest land invasion at the time. The Germans would have 3 million soldiers attacking the Soviets. The army was split into 3 parts: Army Group North, Army Group Center, Army Group South. Army Group North would attack Leningrad, Army Group Center, Moscow, South, Kiev. Much of the military high command wanted to drive to Moscow and call it a win, but Hitler thought otherwise. He saw Moscow only as a direction. The true victory came with the Baku oil fields, but nonetheless would attack Moscow. The blitz the Germans would unveil upon the Soviets was like no other. On the first day alone, 2,000 planes would be destroyed. In only a few months, hundreds of thousands of soldiers were encircled. During Stalin's purges, many senior officers were killed, leaving the inexperienced leaders at the time with no way of saving disaster. With the aid of Finland, Leningrad would be put under the start of a nearly 4-year-long siege. Moscow was within distance of a final push, and Kiev had already fallen. Hitler would have the bulk of Ukraine under his foot. Under Soviet rule, Ukraine was purged and given a famine. Many Ukrainians hoped that they could join the Germans and liberate their homeland. The Germans, however, disagreed. Hitler was invading the Soviets for a Lebensraum, living space. He also had the idea that the Slavic people were inferior to Germans. The Ukrainians would fight back against the Germans, much like the Yugoslavians did. Much of the Soviet industry at the time had been located in front of Moscow, but quickly would be moved behind the Urals. The Soviets were now actually producing equipment and way faster than the Germans could be prepared for. Hitler, however, feared that the Soviets would mount an offensive within the encirclements, cutting his army up and encircling them. He would order, against the will of the generals, to crush the pockets. While Germany was dealing with the pockets, the Soviets were preparing to hold Moscow at all costs. The capital, in all essence but the title, would be moved, but when told to leave, Stalin refused. Germans would slowly grind through the Soviet defenses. The Germans believed that the Soviet army would have already been knocked out. The defense of Moscow would be a brutal one, with the Soviets showing their main defense, a near infinite reserve. With so many people being deployed, the production is unable to keep up, but the Germans are having their own problems. Being all the way at Moscow in the winter, the Germans would have a hard time supplying the soldiers. The Germans were also unprepared for winter. The clothes and equipment buckled under the extreme winter conditions. The Soviets would get word from a spy that the Japanese wanted a non-aggression pact. The soldiers guarding the border of Manchuria would be recalled to help with the defense of Moscow. Specifically trained and armed for winter combat, the reinforcements would stop the German advance. By the end of the winter of 1941, the Germans were devastated. And supply lines stretched thin, oil was running low, they would be destroyed by Soviet offensives. Hitler now put more hope into a new offensive, an offensive to take what he needed most.